Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to Double Dribble Kids, where we're trying to bring youth sports back to kids and families, and especially the communities. If we can get the communities involved, um, now we can start to keep events more local. Okay, now let me just explain something here because I know I've been really critical of a lot of organizations, and they deserve it, in my opinion, because they're taking advantage of many hardworking people and kids and giving stories that just aren't true on how the game really works and stuff, and it's frustrating to me, and they deserve to be called out on that. But having said that, I do think there is a purpose for some of the travel organizations to do the things that they do, having exposure camps for higher level players. But I don't think anything should be done with any basketball player, boy or girl, under ninth grade. So once you hit ninth grade, then the travel kind of system can start. But I'm going to talk to you about how I think that should work first of all. Okay, but even before I get there, I think eighth grade and under, and now there may be a couple eighth graders here and there that you move up or whatever, that's fine. But for the most part, there's better ways to develop them and to advance their skills and help them become really better basketball players, but physically more fit and athletic, and still be able to have a life on a weekend, not be across state lines all the time. And I've had people say to me, "Oh, that was the best thing for our kids. They just loved it. We as a family, we went and we traveled and we did all this." I'm going to tell you what. If you're the ones that are saying that, I'd like you to take a lie detector test. I really would, because I've had people who've told me they started out maybe the first week or second week. Yeah, they had fun, and then it got old really, really fast. But everybody always says, "Oh, how great it was once it's over," right? It isn't great. It's very difficult. It's straining on the families and everyone. So anyway, I'm going to get off that. I'm going to be a little bit more proactive here. So what I think we need to do is, and I'm trying to do this where I live now, is talk to schools and talk to community centers that offer youth sports or rec sport, have basketball courts, or if you play an outdoor sport, have soccer fields or whatever. And I think what we need to do is we need to create a coalition amongst a bunch of schools, the coaches within the school, because they have kind of the know-how how to run certain things. And we need to have the rec centers involved, where we start hosting local or regional. And when I mean regional, I'm talking an hour to 2 hours max of travel time. Anything over that, I don't think needs to happen, but maybe once a summer, maybe twice a summer, something like that. If it's like a big showcase event and some of these older high school 10th, 11th graders want to go attend something like that, and they're worthy of it. Like, they're really good. They're going to have college coaches come in to see them specifically. So I think what we need to do is get these schools and travel centers, rec centers, to offer one day, what I like to call micro tournaments, okay, micro basketball tournaments, right? And this can be done with any sport, but it's a one-day event. There's no more than 2 games per day. The entry fee for teams to go and play in this is roughly $200 or less. The entrance fee for parents and friends and family is $5 a person, or $10 for the family. If you got 5 people, it's $10. If you go by yourself, it's $5. Okay. Concessions go to the school or rec center. The attendance fee, the fee for those teams to get in, that goes to the school or organization that's running it. So if I go to a school and ask them to rent their place and I want to run the tournament, if I have 10 teams and it's $200, I get $2,000, and that has to pay for my officials and pay for everything else. And then if the schools run it, they get that money. Okay. And I think what we do is we pay officials, whether it's $30 a game or whatever, and they get, there's really no more than maybe 5 hours the whole day. That's it. And you can get, if you get enough officials where each official works no more than 2 to 3 games max, everything gets better. The last part that needs to happen is the schools and rec centers need to have a representative. Okay, so maybe the coach at the school that I want to do this at. Before every single game, either myself or somebody that works with me gets on a microphone and talks to the crowd, the coaches, the players, and the officials, and lays down the rules and gives the zero tolerance law. In other words, any yelling at officials, players fighting or arguing, coaches going at officials, it's one warning. The next warning, even if it's close to a warning, that individual, and if it happens to be the coach, he's gone or she's gone. If it's a player, that person's gone. And if there's any pushback, the team is disqualified and they're gone right off. Same with the fans. We have to get the violence and the arguing out of the game. Now, it's one thing if a coach is arguing a call, but it's respectful and that's part of it, right? But when it gets out of control, it has to stop. So these micro tournaments will create an atmosphere where people feel good about going there. They know they only have one day, and if it's within a half hour to an hour, maybe hour and a half, 2 hours at most, that's it. You go, then you got your other day of the weekend. So maybe your tournament's on a Sunday, or if it's on a Saturday, the other day you have to the family. And what we do by getting schools and rec centers involved, now you don't get these really high rental fees, which makes these organizers jack the prices up. And it ends up just becoming, you can't afford it. You can't afford to bring a family to watch this because it's too expensive. So now, if we do this, what happens is we start to get people, enjoying basketball again, rather than going there with anxiety and waiting for the fight to happen and maybe you're playing a team you've played before and you're kind of a rival and it could end up very violent and ugly and officials are on edge. We take that 100% out because the minute something happens, game stops, ball's actually put away. Nothing's going to happen until that person is out. If you have to call the police to get them escorted out, it'll only happen one time and nobody else is going to want to be involved with that. And if fans didn't show up, it might even be better, to be honest with you, because many of them can't control themselves and they don't make it about the kids. They make it about themselves and they don't have enough self-control and then it gets out of control. That's not what it's about. So I think we do this for about 6 weeks. Okay, so basketball season ends, let the kids go play their spring sports. If they want to play basketball, let them train, get with trainers, let them work on their game, work with their school, whatever it is. And then we set a period of time, maybe it's in the summer or right at the very end of spring, and you run these tournaments, and every community runs them, and it keeps it local. So if we can get schools and these rec centers to buy into this and keep the cost low, and the money goes towards them anyway, there's no reason for us to have these exorbitant costs that travel sports are, and there's zero reason to play 5, 6, 7 games in a weekend. None. There's no benefit. We know this. If we're not going to pay attention to science of the body and how it breaks down, what are we doing? Why are we putting kids in this environment and coaches who are stressed out of their mind and parents who are angry by the end of it, and everybody leaves a game feeling like dirty and disgusted because the officials were bad because they're tired and they're tired of getting yelled at. The coaches were yelling, the parents start yelling, the players are tired and can't guard anymore. They can't score anymore because they're pooped out. And I have a bunch of rules, like games would be 45 minutes, 5 timeouts between a 30-second and 60-second timeouts, whatever you want to say. You just say, if you want all 30s, you say I want a 30. If you want 60s, no half times. Game runs nonstop until the last 2 minutes. Can't press if you have a 20-point lead in a game, which is a typical rule, but let the game just go. So with the timeouts and with a little bit of, between each coaches calling it, you're going to be close to 50 to an hour a game, and the next game goes. If you're in a facility that has 2 gyms, 3 gyms, you just schedule when people come and encourage them. Don't come until an hour before your game or whatever. That way the gyms aren't overly packed and people who want to watch can sit down, and then when they're done, they leave and the next game comes in. And if we do this 9th through 12 or 9th through 11th grade, typically, we have fewer games. We're in there 4 hours, 5 hours, maybe at most, and then we're out. And if we do boys and girls together, same thing. It works out really nice. And I'm going to come back again at another time, and I'm going to talk about these micro tournaments for 8th grade down. So middle school and elementary, how we should be running these, because I did these when I coached in Indiana, and they were the best thing I ever did. And matter of fact, the coaches who kind of came and did it with me at first from other schools who brought their questioned it a little bit until they did it. And they said, this is amazing. We should do this more often. I don't know why we don't. So anyway, I'll be back with that. So hopefully this gives you an idea. Micro tournaments for basketball, it's the way to go. It'll bring it back to us. Kids get great playing, good competition again, and it saves a lot of us from anxiety and depression of how awful and violent these games have been in tournaments. And one day, in, out, that's it. All right, guys, we'll talk to you next week. Thanks now.